everyone, it's Ruby here, bringing you guys another video, and today we are going to be looking at another Drama Queens podcast episode. So basically what we do here is we give commentary on the Drama Queens podcast. We kind of add to the discussions, like a conversation that we're having with Sophia Bush and everyone else. And we're on the latest episode of that 707, crying it out. So we're gonna watch it, and we're gonna pull it up here so that you guys can watch too, and we're gonna just talk about One Tree Hill for like an hour or so. Here we go. Let's do it.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl, cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion but you're tough girl. You could sit
For the
with us,
sake of
girl.
it,
Drama
I am
queens,
going
drama queens,
to
drama queens.
speed up the video.
Drama queens, drama queens.
So it's not actually an hour.
Can I begin this episode with a personal announcement?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. Well, as of last week, it's official. I have officially caught One Tree Hill fever. Here's how it went down.
Is it plaguing you while you sleep? Tell us what's happening.
I mean, it's kind of all-consuming. What happened is I wasn't available for episode 706, so Soph and Jana did that one. And what that meant for me was, though, I got to watch the episode just as a viewer. I didn't have to take any notes.
And you
And
loved
I
it.
gotta tell you, I loved it. I had so much fun.
Cutie.
I laughed at myself. I was like shushing Jenny, like, quiet. It's getting really tense between Clay and Quinn. Like, I was so emotionally invested. And I laughed and I went, there it is. I caught it. I caught
There
the
it
fever.
is. Now you know why.
Yeah, I already got it, but now I can say
We've all been
it's in my
there.
blood.
I love that. I'm on board.
All
I'm
of
on board.
us.
We gotta now we just have to get you. I mean, I guess this is good for a late night. If you're up late for some reason, you can watch all the episodes that you weren't in. You can really catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that kind of free time these days, Joey. I plan on watching 5 seasons, 6 seasons of the show.
Absolutely. I mean, just the fact that, it's so easy for you to record this show that you don't even have to leave your home.
I know.
You don't have to go to a hotel.
No, guys, I am
No-
swimming in free
no
time
weird
these days, so
hotel.
yes, absolutely.
Rob-
We got some stuff to talk about.
Oh, we have a lot to talk about, but before
Oh,
we move
yeah.
on from your Rob Buckley's hotel adventures, I did want to say for the friends at home who can't see you, I noticed that today you're in a room with only one bed instead of two, and it looks as though you have a kitchenette. What's going on at the front desk of the local hotel? Are they have they caught on that this is where you work now and now they're upgrading your features, or was this just like a surprise today?
You tell me. I was wondering the same thing, right? Because here's the deal. I gained a kitchenette, but I lost a bed. So either they've realized I might be a big fish, or they're like, this guy can have the dregs, and they just threw me in the last net. I like to think I got upgraded to a microwave.
I think you got upgraded.
Yeah, I think you did too. Well, they know you don't need two beds in there. You're not even using the one now that they figured out you're not bringing up a little side piece.
A little
Yeah.
misstep. Yeah, I mean, listen, they didn't have to figure anything out. Remember, last week I shouted at like an absolute psychopath. I don't use the beds. What? This guy is not well.
Well, congratulations on your upgrade.
Thank you. I can't wait just to settle in with my microwave and a box of Hot Pockets and make it
I
a
was
day.
going to say popcorn, man. You should just be making popcorn for these episodes in that microwave every week.
The audience would love listening to me chomping on popcorn throughout the entire episode.
Joe and I had to learn that lesson early on.
Was one of you chewing gum?
Because Sophie and I are snackers.
Yeah, and we sort of assumed well, they'll take the sounds of us eating out. And then our sweet editors were like, that's really complicated on a multi-stream audio recording with all these people.
Oh,
So people
yeah.
talking while you two were eating, and we were like, oh,
Yeah.
right. Sorry about that. So,
Yeah. We didn't notice until people started commenting. They're like, why are they eating and chewing in the
oh
microphone?
God, it was
I'm
embarrassing.
like, "Oh."
Wait, was this also at a time where you thought this might not live on YouTube? So you thought maybe you were just kind of getting away with one?
Or I don't know, if we're sitting and we're recording, it's breakfast time and we're all eating, that's one thing. But what I didn't realize was that at least for me, when I do that, I would start to see the clips that were getting cut together for social, and I was like, what is this, the Snack Olympics? How many foods did I eat in 56 minutes yesterday? I didn't even realize until it started to really get spliced together. It was like a montage food marathon.
Yeah,
I don't mind it, though, because I
that's something that you always have to be cautious of. Like, for example, I used to stream, and so sometimes streaming would interfere with dinner / I needed to eat, but I didn't want to stop streaming, so I'd eat while streaming. The problem is that you have to be kind of cautious of because during those times I didn't necessarily have a mic on. I didn't have a camera on, but I did have a mic on. And so you kind of have to understand, okay, I might be sacrificing some ears. Audio in general is very difficult to kind of balance. I never know how to balance my audio. Never. I try to balance it, but sometimes it doesn't turn out the way that I think it's going to turn out. So I've killed videos that will probably do really well in order to because the audio is just bad. There's just some things that you have to be kind of aware of, and also kind of accept that maybe some days you're gonna have bad audio and that balancing it and figuring out the right levels is a hard thing to do. It's great that celebrities are learning this.
I think, first of all, as you know, I love snacks. And also, it's a really fun conversation piece. Like,
Yep.
just before
I
we
mean-
started recording, I said, hey, Sophie, is that a dried mango I see you snacking on?
Mango chili lime. In fact, it is, Robert Buckley. It is.
It's fun. Food's fun.
Food is fun when it's good. So fun.
Yeah.
Guys, I feel excited about it's not a snack marathon, but we are doing a recording marathon today. For our friends at home, the way our schedules have worked this week, we're actually going to get into episodes 7 and 8 of season 7. And the whiplash from intensity to pure comedy I have experienced getting ready for today, I feel like you did, Rob, watching 706. I have had the best time. I have been laughing.
It is
I'm like,
kind
oh my God,
of
we are
annoying
funny.
that
I'm really excited to get into this with you too.
Yeah, it was a good time. So, all right, we have
YouTube
season 7,
has
episode
turned
7, I
into
and
a
Love and You,
week-
which is the title of an Avid Brothers song. Aired date October 26,
week
2009. I was wondering, I was thinking,
delay
this feels like a
from
Halloween episode. I
Spotify,
bet this was
which I
October.
guess
Yeah.
makes sense. 'cause they
Dan brings
have
Renee onto his
contracts
television
and
show, leaving
everything,
Nathan
but-
nearly powerless to stop him from revealing the truth that had done ever pregnant
It
to the world.
means
Quinn
that
examines
I
what
have
went
to
wrong with
wait
David, and Sarah
longer
and Clay discuss
to
their
watch
past.
it.
Meanwhile, Brooke comes
The
to meet
next
Julian about her true
episode
desires.
because
And this episode was directed, I believe this was his first time directing, right?
No, last season, I think, right?
Oh, last season, yes, because it was some of the slam ball stuff I think he did.
Mhm.
So this is James Lafferty's. Yeah, directed this.
Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
a cool thing that the device of where everyone is going to watch this show gave you guys
The
really
fact
isolated
that
time
I
in
don't
the
even
Harry
have to
Nathan house,
watch the
so
episode
that
in
he
order
could
to
have
know
all
what
of
they're
our other
talking
scenes
about
to
is
really
crazy.
just direct on set and not have to wear two hats. It's such a cool.
It's like I
It's such a
should
cool little
probably
behind-the-scenes
watch the
Yeah,
episodes
I
that
love
they're
it too.
talking
I thought that
about.
the use of Dan's show as the through line for the
But at the
episode
same
was
time,
done
I feel like I
so
don't
well.
even need to.
I agree.
In terms of, like you said, sort of spacing everyone out, but sort of everyone's
Yeah.
all on the same page.
Maybe I
and
should start
just
doing
the
that.
tension of
Maybe-
how it was going to everything.
Maybe
Does
what
that
I'll
fall in love
do
and go
is
into different
that
couples?
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
when
I
I'm
wrote that one
waiting
down. He
to
said,
watch
Dan
the
says,
next
"We're not victims when it
episode
comes to love
that
and
they're
happiness, we're
gonna talk
assassins."
about, which is like 7 or
Dan
8
slash
next,
Paul just
for it to be on
crushed
YouTube.
this
Maybe I
episode.
should just
He
like
was so damn good.
take a peek
So good.
at.
Yeah, he
7
always
or
shows up
8.
so reliable. He
and
just knows how to
remind
handle all the
myself
material.
what it's
Just throw
about.
anything at him. It's great.
Yeah, he's just really, really good in this stage of Dan Scott's life and this talk show host arena. It gives him this really cool space to show off all of his curiosity and his listening and his empathy. And I thought that, you know,
Yeah,
to
being
your point, Rob,
careful
the
of-
way they kind of wove
Why did that? Come
everyone's
up?
scenes
Why
in
did
and out of
that-
each other. You
why
know, when
does
he's
that-
talking
I
about
like to go away.
being divorced, and then it cuts to
Please.
Quinn, and you,
This is not-
there,
this
there
is
were
not
moments
your
like that for
show.
everyone. You know,
Yeah.
Sarah's talking to you
Not
about
your
the
video.
character, and it cuts to Nathan. Like the device
I don't know
of
why
these
Alexis
parallel
popping
lives.
up.
It didn't feel too heavy-handed. It felt really brilliant.
I just can't get over it's such a brilliant idea in the first place. I'm still, every time I see him walk out and there's a talk show in an audience, I'm like, this is so genius. Where else could Dan Scott have gone? Of course, this is what they wrote. It's so smart. It still surprises me. It still makes me so happy.
Yeah, it's perfect for Dan's ego, yet it's also the perfect device for questioning whether he's actually changed, given what his messaging is.
It feels like he's really genuinely trying to change the more that this goes on. I mean, I really love that about this
Yeah,
episode.
there's always the
all of
kind of
all of
debate
this stuff
of
with Renee
like,
is just
is
so
Dan
juicy.
Scott
Juicy.
How about when they're backstage and Renee says, Mr. Scott, what happened between you and Nathan?
Reformable?
And Paul goes,
like is
I murdered his uncle.
is it
amongst other
possible
things.
to
I'll see you out there.
forgive
Just
Dan
totally
Scott
matter-of-fact, nonchalant.
to
And
have
also
a-
almost ran into the door frame. I don't know if you caught
redemption
that.
arc for him?
I didn't.
He did. He leaned forward
I
when he said the line, and then he
mean-
turned his head to the right, and the door frame was right there, and he just sort of like bobbed his head and moved out of the way. Oh, so great. Yeah, it seems like he's genuinely changing. Yeah, but then he walks into the room and he's like standing behind her in the mirror and puts his hand on her shoulders and just, ugh, gross. Reminds me of that clip of Lucille Ball. Was she on the Dick Cavett show or something? And he was walking through the audience and she keeps going, could you take your hands off her, please?
Yeah.
You can ask
Don't
her a
touch
question,
her.
but could
Don't
you please
touch
take-
her.
That's right. It's really funny. And it made me think of that when Dan walked over and just, why are you standing behind her and why do you have your hands on her shoulders and why are you being creepy?
Yeah, it's very domineering.
Listen, he needs a class on personal space and boundaries, because do you remember how awkward he made it with the freaking Twizzlers, the Red Vines, and the intern
God.
last 2 episodes ago?
Right
He was
in the
like,
face.
he got right up in that ear and was like, I forgive you.
Thank you.
Don't be angry from a distance with your hot breath in my ear. Pass.
Your hot breath in my ear. I'm sorry. I just.
And then, you know when someone gets that close to you that you can
Yeah.
feel the heat of their breath? Nope, I'm out.
Yeah, it's not good.
I was just so
Yeah.
surprised at this. I did
It's
not
always
know
weird.
that he was going to do that on the show with Renee. I've forgotten completely what happened in that storyline. So this was it was really fun to watch as a viewer and not know. And when the lie detector test, first of all, when he brought out the lie detector, I was like, yeah, get her, Dan. And
yeah.
then she said he was the father of the baby, and it said true. And I was shocked. My mouth fell open. I had no idea that was coming. And then his kept on coming.
And it was so. I mean, as a viewer, to
It's
have the
an
suspense, the
art
drama, the shock.
to
What a
watch
better
this
choice
episode.
than to have the lie detector test be real.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
when
see,
he puts
like
it
now
on,
that they're talking about
and
the
he
lie
starts
detector,
saying
I
all this
know
nonsense,
exactly
I
what
didn't murder my
episode they're
brother.
talking
I'm the
about. I
president of
know
the United States,
exactly
and
what they're
you just go,
talking
oh my God,
about.
oh my God, oh my God.
No.
It's not real.
It's all coming
love
back. This is
it.
why I don't need.
Well, and
I
that
don't need
also
to
means
watch the
that he is
episode. I don't need to rewatch. I don't need to watch the episode. I know what they're talking
Banking
about.
on his son's character and integrity.
This
His
is
bluff is entirely predicated on
part
the
of
fact that
being
he
a
believes
One Tree
Nathan,
Hill fan.
Yeah.
which was really sweet. I don't know if sweet's the right word, but it was impactful. You know, because otherwise he's really damning Nathan on live television if it goes sideways.
Yeah, it's sort of bittersweet, right?
Yeah.
Because he says to Rachel near the end of the episode, I raised him. I know who he is. He has faith in his son and knows that
He
it doesn't
knows that
matter
he
because
would
he's never
never
going to get
do
his
it.
kid back. And it's such an interesting kind of cycle to be in because she sees through his instinct to say he's fine. And she says, are you hurt that maybe that's in the next episode that Nathan didn't say thank you. It's it's a really interesting story for Dan and Rachel
Yeah.
to navigate together as a couple, because just like you realize he can tell all of these lies and the lie detector says they're true, it makes you look back and go, oh wait, the second question was my wife loves me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he said, I love my wife, right?
I think he said my wife Rachel loves me.
Oh,
I
interesting.
think, if I'm remembering
I
correctly.
mean, either way, it's, yeah.
And so it's a really interesting dynamic because on the one hand, she absolutely sees him. She knows what hurts him. And on the other, he's irritated by her business prowess, but has also been saved by it. And when you realize he's sort of gone rogue with this lie detector and this whole thing, but then he's the genius who made up that there's a panel of experts, you're like, which one of these people, what am I watching?
It's so fun to watch someone with nothing to lose.
Oh,
He's
Yeah.
just
He is-
flying free.
he's hit
You never
rock
know what to
bottom.
expect. You never know what's going to happen.
He's hit his
Yeah,
rock bottom.
I'm really enjoying this ride with him.
I also just love, like you said, you never know what to expect. But he has a great line to Renee when he's interviewing her. And he's like, we went through your past. And she's like, okay. And he says, you were a hostess in a club. And she's quick to say, yeah, but there was no nudity. And he says, I understand. My wife was a stripper. A little bit of nudity. I love that. It's like this man has just no filter
Yeah.
or concern.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah, he's just not saying it to be mean, but he just doesn't care, completely blowing up his wife's spot. And of course, Rachel just does a quick shot of her being like, come on, bro.
yeah.
So much fun with those two. But on a different note, two people not having such a good time, David and Quinn. I was very curious what you thought about the move of him dumping all of Quinn's stuff at Clay's house.
It took me a second to even
move.
realize what was going on. Not just a second, actually. It took me a while. Maybe I wasn't paying attention or something. I thought I was, but I really didn't get what was happening. I didn't know whose house they were at. Oh, you walk out, it's all her stuff. And then I was like, is some girl that he slept with dumped all of her stuff? Is somebody now the Sarah dumped out Quinn's stuff on the yard? I was so confused. So he just dumped all of her suitcases open, like out all of, what a weird choice.
Which also means that he went back to wherever their home is to collect the things she didn't take with her to Tree Hill, to bring them back, somehow know where Clay lives, even though he's only recently got there, and then not like confront
Look,
Clay,
don't
but just
question the
throw
logistics
said
of
clothing all over the lawn.
Of some other guy, not even her. It's like, why are you mad at me, dude?
Yeah.
Just
David's
David
so
knows
extra.
Nathan and Haley's house well. We've seen flashbacks of them there. We see how close they are in
Yeah.
this long-standing relationship. To figure out where Clay lives in this manner feels so borderline stalkery.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's had to transport all these things, I'm like, listen, if you gotta pack an SUV with suitcases and boxes, you close them up. You zip the zippers, you tape the boxes.
no, he was making a statement. I
Yeah.
don't know what the statement was, because it sure as hell was petty to me.
It just seems so silly to me.
It is. Could you imagine, though, if we had the scene of him doing that? He's a grown man, and he's not smashing my windshield. He's like, ugh, throwing a bra in a tree,
Stop.
throwing Lululemon sweats in a bush. That would be outrageous.
It was so long ago that I'll say it feels like another life, but I kicked somebody out once, and I packed everything up. The boxes
Oh,
were packed,
yes.
they were sealed, and I dollied every fucking box to the end of the driveway and was like, here's your stack, come get yours. And I've never been more mad in my life, and by the way, deserved to be. And I still used packing tape.
Yes.
Like, the writing in the bush, it's just, who?
It's so petty.
Why?
I mean, seriously, imagine what that looked like. Like, you know how a little kid toilet paper is a house? That's a
Yes.
grown man with a suitcase or a duffel
Exactly.
bag, just walking around, hanging a bra on a palm tree,
It's
putting a
so
pair
awkward.
of cute boy shorts on the grass.
And the fact that it's not at where Quinn is staying, the fact that it's
Yes.
at your place.
Yeah.
How great would the scene have been for you to be getting ready for this episode of Dan's show with Nathan, and Quinn is like, can I do anything? I'll give you space. I'll go to my room. I don't know. And you guys hear the doorbell ring, and you like see David's car leaving, and there's just
Ding dong
all her
ditch.
stuff all in the driveway. And then we could have seen Haley and Quinn have a moment together instead of like weirdly suddenly Chantel has to march into the house with like office boxes that people take when they get fired and they steal the staplers. Like, what's happening?
I wish Clay would have walked out while David was in the middle of doing it and
Yes.
just caught him and been like, hey, bud, what are you doing with that bra?
He's not here.
It would have been great. Yeah, exactly. If David looked up and been like, "Yeah, Quinn," and then, "Oh, she's not here." In fact, actually, I haven't seen her in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I keep sending her home. I
Like,
thought
what
my
if
dead wife,
Quinn wasn't even
None of that looks
there?
like it's gonna fit me, buddy, so can you just take it with you and leave?
Because the whole point was that Quinn would need to see
Something
this.
I think is really interesting when we talk about how this episode does so well in terms of how it weaves everyone's
I
stories
guess it's
together.
because he
You know, from me
assumed
saying to
that
Julian surprise, and then David brings Quinn into the house and says surprise.
Quinn would
like,
be
all these
there,
little things. What
and
struck
he
me
was
was
right.
realizing
so
that we were
it's
seeing these
more of
couples
a
at these
guess.
various inflection points of are we in or are we out? You know, Quinn and David's marriage is dissolving. Brooke and Julian are trying to figure out if they're really in this for the long haul. And those are so often the things we get to see in a show that is about relationships.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful in this, are these two going to go deep? These two are getting out of the deep end, to have this view into grief. Because loss, when you're in your 20s, you may not know that many people who've been through loss, but by the time you're our age, everybody's lost somebody.
Yeah.
And it hit me. I remember just being so moved by you, Rob, and Amanda Schull, and the way that you carried out this storyline. But watching it from the frame of references I now have, the experiences I have, the things I've lived through since we shot this stuff, it just felt so special to get to witness this third pillar of, you know, an enormous shift in someone's relationship. So like,
Yeah.
hats off to you, truly.
Oh, thanks. And Amanda Schull was so great. I thought
Oh.
it was, again, like so effective and just showing this sweet relationship forming.
Yeah.
I had totally forgotten that she was the one who asked me to marry her, or asked Clay
Oh,
to
I
marry her.
loved that. It was
yeah.
fantastic.
And because I knew what the end of their thing was going, their flashbacks were going to be, it made it especially devastating. Oh, it was like a dagger because it was just,
Yeah.
she's so great. And then she did this. And it's like, she's his rock, you know, and they're so in love. And then it's just gone in a moment. Oh,
So before, because this was the episode where it's the big giveaway, like we don't know that she's dead and that she's not a real person in your life until that moment.
Yeah, I mean, we just find out in 707 that her name is even Sarah. It's the first time
Yeah.
you say her name.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I went, oh, her name.
That's right. Yeah, on the bridge, which was also, I wrote down best meet cute ever. It was just so fantastic. And shot on the long lens. So it really looked like an indie movie. I feel like we were in Elizabethtown or something. It just was so cool. But I was wondering if you guys had conversations on the set about things that she could do or not do, touch or not touch, be involved in or not, you know, like in terms of being a big figment of your imagination. She was painting her toenails twice in the context of like your house in the whole episode. I was like, how many times can this girl paint her toenails? Oh yeah, she probably can't do a lot of other things for the sake of continuity. Do you remember any of those conversations?
She's dead, Joy. She has a lot of free time to kill, okay?
But but I'm feeling like she can't go to your microwave and make popcorn or like you know get into pots and pans. So
I do remember us sort of laying a couple of ground rules, and yes, I think it was interaction.
because did you even touch?
No.
Only jumping off the bridge.
Well, that was when she was alive.
Oh, that's right, of course, because it's the flashback. Of course, of course.
Yeah.
The first time we meet her at Trick, right, when she disappears next to me, if you recall, there's a moment where I say, "Come home with me," and she says, "Well, that's up to you, isn't it?" That's the first hint that she's not real. She's
not
a play's imagination.
Yeah.
And then yes, from there on out, every flashback, she's isolated. She does not interact with anything real, because you're exactly right. Then we're sort of breaking the rules of like reality.
Yeah.
So no, she always sort of stayed on her own. One thing that I
Makes
liked,
sense.
that was I wrote down, because she starts calling Clay on liking Quinn. She calls him
Yeah.
out, and she says, "Why'd you send her away? You like her." And my note was, she's about to get serious when the dead wife goes to bat for the new girl.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's this cute thing though, where it's like she
Yeah,
really knows Clay. And also, she's a figment of Clay's imagination, so like, of course she does. But it sort of added to the sweetness. Like, there's like a scene
Yeah.
in 708 where she says,
I think it's sweet
he
that
says, like, after Clay says, "I
in this context, she's basically saying it's okay, you can move on, because Clay is like so scared that if he moves on, he will forget who Sarah is, and Sarah's like, okay, maybe this will happen, maybe it won't, but you, for the sake of you, need to move on. You need to accept that I'm gone and not lose the opportunity that you've been presented just because that you think that you owe something from me when I'm dead. I'm not here anymore. And I feel like in a way, like if we meet each other again, we'll work it out. Okay? Maybe we'll even have a threesome in heaven.
I could never love anyone the way I love you." And she says something to the effect of, "Quinn," and I said, "No," and she goes, "I can always tell when you're lying."
Yeah.
She's just that sweet thing of like, "I see you. I
Yeah.
know you, babe."
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things I thought was really, again, it's profound to me in ways now that I don't think I could have understood it then. But when you guys have this conversation, when you are at the record player and you're turning on that song, and we're finally going to get to learn what happened. And I wrote down, I was like, oh my God, the record. Oh my God, they're dancing. Oh, I have goosebumps. I know what's coming. Like, I was panicking because I knew that this phase of learning about you two was about to get pierced for me. And I thought the way you talked about forgetting things about her and being so afraid that you're going to lose you two. I'm afraid I'm
Yeah.
losing us. I don't remember certain things. I don't remember what you smelled like. The way that just like cut me to the core, because there is, and people don't always talk about it, there is a trauma years after losing someone about letting anyone else into this
Yeah.
place that the person who's died occupies.
Especially someone that you're intimate with, right? I feel like in a way you can come to terms with not being able to talk to your mom or dad or grandparent, or it's not easy, but it is in a way easier to move on, because it's not like you can have another parent. Not really, anyways. I mean, you have your step parents, but in general, you don't really replace your parents. But where it comes an issue is when you lose someone that you're married to, someone that you are dating, someone that you're engaged to, someone that means more to you and in a way is meant to be moved on from, because you feel guilty that you'd even think of dating somebody else and being with somebody else. And in some cases it might even be that the relatives of that person make you feel bad for trying to move on. Your children might be confused as to, why you're even thinking of marrying another woman or man, because they don't understand that you need that peace in order to be able to move on with your life. Like, you know, it feels like to a kid that you're replacing their mom, their dad. But in reality, I feel like most people are just trying to get back to a normalcy, to just do something different with their life and be able to accept that the person that they once loved is not there anymore.
Like, how do you let someone into that space in your heart, into that room? Does someone moving into it, take away what you can hold on to of this person that you've lost? And I thought her telling you to open the door was so, it was like there was nothing she could say in response because that's your pain. And just to say, you have to, like, you're still here, open the door. It has to change at some point. There was space for all of it, and none of it was downplayed. And again, just as a person now who's been through loss that I hadn't been at 27, I cherish the way you guys got to handle that. It was beautiful.
And I love that the speech isn't, I'm lonely, I miss you. It's not fair.
Yeah.
I love that it's that I'm losing you. Like it really to me just spoke to like how much he loved her and not just being married and having a partner, but it was specifically about her. And fun / sad behind the scenes of that scene, I remember rehearsing it and liking the way it felt, liking the emotion where I was at emotionally, and then us shooting my coverage, and I didn't feel like I got to where I wanted, and I was so upset with myself because I was like, James was a buddy, and I remember afterwards when he was like, it's great, we got it, and I remember I was so upset with myself, I actually started crying. like I kind of just choked up, apologizing, but I walked away, and like actually I was so upset with myself that I felt like I was, the story I was telling myself was I'm letting my friend down, and then I was actually crying, like I thought I wanted to do in the scene. So it was funny to watch it back now and go like, that's a totally fine level right there.
Yeah.
You didn't need to be weeping.
No, I have actually. That's a huge note that I have in this. That
Sometimes it's more powerful when you don't cry, because crying can sometimes feel forced, right? Because in a way, when you're grieving, when you're truly upset, more often than not, you can't even cry. Like, have you ever had that moment where you're just like, you're sitting, you're reflecting or something, and you're sometimes, like, I've noticed that, like, oh yeah, I haven't cried in a while. Like, I've felt sad, but I haven't cried. And, like, sometimes it's just, like, sometimes your first instinct when you are grieving, when you're processing, is not to cry. Because it's not that you're upset necessarily. It's more like you're being overwhelmed by your emotions, and it doesn't always lead to crying. I don't know.
I am consistently impressed and surprised by you, Rob, because your subtlety, your groundedness, watching that performance in particular, what you're talking about, made me feel safe as an audience member. Like, I didn't feel like I was watching an actor that was performing. And have you ever seen a play or you watch something and you're like, ooh, I went to see some shows recently in the West End, and there was a particular actress in a role that was really a wonderful actress, but she had trouble hitting the high notes. And every time she started to sing and get close to the notes, you could tell everybody was like holding their breath a little bit, like, oh God, are you gonna get it? Are you gonna get there? And it's not a great feeling as an audience member. You really want to relax. And I felt like when I watched that performance that you gave, I felt so safe. Like, I wasn't worried at all. I wasn't like, is he gonna cry? Are you milking it? Is he gonna be like trying to take his moment to be emotional and show everybody that he can cry on camera? No, you were just so dropped in. To me, it felt like you were exactly realistically. Because loss isn't all of a sudden like that. Like what you're talking about, Sophie. It takes a long time. You know, there's the initial shock, and then there's the anger and the bargaining. And all the
it
steps
takes you realizing, like, sometimes, like, I'm it's kind of weird because, I've lost people, and there's been times where I've cried over people that I didn't expect to cry about, and then there's people that I felt like I should have cried about but didn't. And in a way, you can feel guilty about not crying because you're like, why didn't I cry? But sometimes it's more so that you might have accepted that, okay, this person's days are like numbered, like they're going to die. Like, you almost expect it in a way. Or maybe you're in an environment where learning of the news is not going to, shatter your world. And it might not feel like you're grieving right away. It might even take a year or two before you truly process how you feel. And there's many people that don't necessarily cry immediately. It takes a while to kind of, it just takes some time. And there's not really a reason why it takes time, but it just does.
Through, but he's holding on to her because it does take a long time to like let go slowly, like untangle.
To let go.
And that's what I felt from that performance. So whatever was going on in your head, that was just some negative self-talk, man, because you rocked it.
Yeah, which I had a lot of back then. The other thing too is that this might be a conversation he's had with her 50 times.
Yeah.
He might have had this conversation every single night. You know, so it's another reason why like it might not be explosive, because this might be the 30th time he's saying these words to her. So I remember wanting just to keep it honest. That's always the North Star, is like, is it honest? Is this honest and grounded? But I was at the tail end of because it was still early in my career, where I thought sadness equaled tears.
Sure, we all did in our 20s.
We all did.
Yeah.
I was like, keep it honest, but if it's sad, I need to cry. And so there was this butting of heads where I was like, that work felt honest, but I didn't cry, so I missed the mark.
Yeah. What was your you may have talked about this, and forgive me if you have, but remind me a bit about your experience as an actor before this show. Like, were you hired to do dramatic work a lot, or were you doing mostly comedy or
No, drama.
Where were you?
So my first job was a nighttime soap opera. Shout out to, remember My Network TV, Channel 13 in LA? I did a nighttime soap, did 60 episodes, it was a self-contained series, did another nighttime soap, and then my next like proper job was Lipstick Jungle. So it was, it wasn't like HBO drama, but it was, like One Tree Hill level drama. However, I will say, going back watching this was me getting thrown into the deep end. I had never had to do real pain, because this is a different kind of pain, like losing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yes, this was a first for me, which is, again, I had no touchstone for this role, so I didn't know if like, am I doing this love story a disservice by not being more devastated? Because all I'd ever done before was like, I got cheated on.
That was
my girlfriend
more
dumped me.
real to just.
I love him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a first. Yeah, I mean, this dude Clay, like I was saying, like Hillary. I remember listening last season of the show.
It's like when
going,
people think that
she's getting put
being
through the
mad
and I thought about my thing,
means
and
you
I went
have
in the
to
episode
be
with her, and she's like,
loud.
tell me
Means
if
that
you
you
ever
have to
went through
be
these things. And I realized,
shouting.
oh my
Like,
gosh, yeah, Clay's got
It's like sometimes the most mad person is not someone who's going to yell. It's like, have you ever like done something and you know you were not supposed to do it, and you're waiting for the yelling. You're waiting for it, but it doesn't come. And it's not that your parent or whoever isn't mad. It's more so that they're almost like using it because they know what you're probably feeling, and you can tell that they're mad, but they're not yelling. And it's almost confusing, because it's like, I think there's supposed to be more yelling here, but there's not. And it's almost scarier, because it's like, okay, if they're not yelling, what are they gonna do?
through it too.
Yep.
And then at least as the show goes on, Clay gets to sort of he walks through fire, but then he gets out on the happy silly side,
Yeah.
How fun though that you really got to dive in emotionally, dig deep emotionally.
Dude, the funeral scene, I remember shooting that,
Yeah.
and it was just me in a coffin, and again, it was like, what does this look like, losing something? And I remember, so again, this is very early on for me, but I remember I didn't really know the best way to do this, so I was just like, I just got to stay in the sorrow pocket. So for about a day or two leading up to that scene, I was just isolated in my apartment watching a lot of that movie, The Fountain. Have you seen that with Rachel Weisz and Hugh Jackman?
Devastating.
If you haven't, there's this scene in it where it's a Darren Aronofsky film, so I understand about 28% of the whole movie, but it's about a doctor who's working on a cure for this rare disease that his wife has and is going to be dying from soon. And so it's him like racing against time to try to save the love of his life. But there's this one scene where he comes home from a late night of work, and he just like snuggles, she's asleep in bed, and he snuggles up next to her, and he lays there for a moment, and then he gets out of bed and he tiptoes to the bathroom, and he just weeps as quietly as he can. And I remember that resonated with me, so I just watched that movie for like a day and a half, because I didn't know, again, like I have to cry because that's the only way to show how sad I am.
Yeah.
So it was not efficient.
What sort of director was James in that environment? Because he was pretty new. Like, how did he handle?
He was great because he was hands off. I think maybe he could tell I was putting myself through it enough, and he came over to my apartment and we sat down and we talked through all of our stuff. So that kind of freed us up on the day for him, like for us to do a blocking rehearsal, and then it was just sort of like, go.
Yeah.
We'll find
Wow,
it,
that's
And
nice.
so there was a lot of freedom with him.
That's great.
But yeah, but this was like, I remember the stress of this episode because like I'm the new guy. I always told myself, I'm not a guy who cries. I don't know how to do that. And all of a sudden I'm like, come on, a dead wife and a funeral. Oh no.
Oh God. Rob, I can't remember. It's murky for me because I know that I gave this book, because I couldn't stop talking about it when it came out, to our boss. In 2007, this book called Love is a Mixtape came out. And this incredible writer, Rob Sheffield, who comes from music journalism. Like, he's like the real deal Peyton Sawyer. He wrote this memoir about his wife dying of a brain aneurysm in their house. And it was like, it's still one of the most beautiful books I've ever read in my life. And the whole thing, he sort of takes you on this nonlinear journey of like
Is that the
albums they fell in
inspiration
love
for
to and the
Sarah?
concerts they used to go to and how all of this music helps him process this unimaginable loss. Did I give you a copy of the book?
I don't think so.
God, I bungled it.
Missed opportunity.
I think I must have assumed like, oh, well, they'll tell you to read this book because like
What
none
the
of
heck
you
is
haven't seen episode
that?
5.
Someone did not do
Like
their
nobody
job.
stopped talking about it.
Hello.
You know, they always say if you want something done right, do it yourself. Not necessarily that you would like to really dip back into it, but if you have any free time coming up for any
Someone
reason
did not
lately,
do their
soon.
job
What are the
there.
words I'm looking for? Can I speak to
don't
it?
know
words?
what
Can I just tell you, your
happened
English is getting so much better, Sophia.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
there.
So much better now than when I was like in journalism school. But it's so beautiful. And again, I don't think I could have understood it then the way I feel like I can understand it watching you do it now. The encouragement to push tears, which all of us got in our 20s, like, can you just make it a little more emotional? Can we just get like a tear? What a weird sense of direction
Yeah.
to give a young person. But to be able to play
Anyone.
actual pain rather than to try to show it off, it made me think watching you do this episode in particular a lot about the book, about certain ways that the author described this sort of pain that burned so big that it almost hollowed you out. Like it felt so enormous that you almost couldn't feel anything at all. And the way that you're explaining letting yourself feel it instead of trying to push it out of you, I guess this is the most long-winded way of saying I think you did it perfectly.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
It's beautiful.
I was curious to hear what your thoughts on it were, because I will be honest, when I watched it, half of me was like, okay, that's grounded, like, okay, and the other half of me felt like I was watching a little kid play dress up.
No.
Like I was going like, I hope other people are on board. Like it's just because it's me. And I also know where I was back then. But I remember at the time after this episode aired, a friend of a friend reached out to me and said he had lost his wife to a brain aneurysm.
Whoa.
And he basically said, he's like, you played that beautifully, and that is what that pain was
so
like.
encouraging.
And it was so nice, because again, especially back then with like my imposter syndrome, I was like, I bricked it, that was terrible. So to have this grown man say, I felt like you told that story well. It was a really nice attaboy to get back in. And I think it just also, it really helps immediately make sense of everything we've seen Clay doing so far in terms of being distant. I don't believe in love, non-committal. You're like, no, I completely get it. And I also love the way that we got to flash back and see David and Quinn.
Yeah.
Because we've had nothing substantive, very, very little substantive from these two.
Yes.
And this was the first time where it's like, great, now we see where it used to be.
See.
How the change. Yeah, now we're getting the real answer. It's not just like, oh, we changed. Oh, it's like,
Sorry.
oh, okay. He's throwing your clothes on the lawn of some other guy. And okay, there was an obsession about money. And there was this like, you're starting to see how the pieces are coming together. The flashbacks were really, really useful. And one time, Rob, when you didn't look like you were playing dress up as a little boy in that scene, but the scene that you did was when you walked out in the suit, and the way that you were holding your body, and the way, this is right before she proposed to you with your arms forward. She's like, just put on some jeans.
That's good, because in that scene, that's what we were going for.
Yes, it made me laugh so much. It was so great. It was really funny. But yeah, the flashbacks were really useful, and I thought they did them. We've always done flashbacks pretty well on our show. I like that that's a device that we use often.
I do too.
One thing that was super weird to me was the house party with Renee. Just by the way, I don't know if did you guys notice that like all the lights were on? I'm like, what time is this party? And who?
How funny.
It was so bright in there.
It was so bright.
It was also a little bit heavy-handed that Clay goes, he goes, all right, I gotta take the picture. And I go, okay, make it sexy, but not too sexy. That'll cost us $20 million next year. And I took the picture.
Foreshadowing.
Okay,
I
guys.
was like, oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, I like that we finally get to see Brooke tell Julian that she was planning on proposing on the beach.
Yeah, all these reverse proposals. It's fun.
That was such a beautiful, sad moment. That
Yeah. Because it's like, oh, yeah. It's almost there.
kind of disappointed that was just going to be where it lived and died. And so I was really happy this episode that Brooke circled back and told him that.
Yeah.
I am
I mean,
too.
I feel like it was always going to come back because, like, Chekhov's gun, if it's there, you need to use it. But I mean, that could have been something that that was a hidden secret for the audience in Sophia to know, audience in Brooke to know. It didn't have to be something that was shared with Julian. So it is a touching moment to kind of have that. I almost proposed to you, and Julian's like, well, how do you feel about that now? Like having that moment of realization, oh, damn, like I'm about to lose her. What did I do to lose her?
Important, and what I appreciate, in the same way that I felt like I got to understand Clay's behavior because we got to learn where he came from. I got to understand this idea. I thought the flashbacks with Quinn and David that you were just talking about, Joy, finally let us understand what that line, people are allowed to change and they're allowed not to. I was like, I get it. I see it. I see how he changed and thought it was great. And I see how him changing absolutely broke her heart. They just grew apart. I get it.
Yeah.
And what I like is that I got the backstory for these two new characters that we already have for Brooke Davis.
Yeah.
Like, we know how deeply imprinted she has been by Lucas's betrayal, by feeling as though she, isn't the one who ever really gets chosen. That, I think one of the things I now feel weirdly even more connected to her on is this feedback of, well, you have a really big life and it's really hard for someone to be with you. And it's especially hard for a man to not have his ego bruised when his girl is fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Like to see all of that stuff in her
Yeah.
come out in that sad, sad moment when he asks on the dock, did you mean it? And she says, I did then. And he says, but not anymore.
It's like, what changed? And he's thinking like, okay, what did change? I mean, Alex is now in the picture, but is it just Alex, or is it something more than that? You know, it's something that you have to process, but is difficult to process, and you have to kind of accept, okay, there's a clear difference here. Like, something is not the same as it used to be.
I wanted to sob. I was like, oh.
What does Brooke answer? What do you say?
She says,
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
yeah,
right?
she says, I don't know anymore.
Isn't that interesting how time, you know, you can feel so passionately in
I
one
mean,
moment and then, like,
sometimes you can, like, just naturally drift apart, and it's not that someone did anything, it's not that someone said anything, or, you know, no one cheated or anything. It's just that you just don't have that connection anymore. Like, I think some people, they meet their love of their life and they assume this is going to be my person for all eternity. And when you realize that it's just not there anymore for whatever reason, like maybe you're like Quinn, who just doesn't connect with her husband anymore, or maybe you're like Brooke, who just isn't sure of herself and doesn't know where her future holds. I mean, you have to kind of understand the history behind Brooke Davis and why she might feel that way. I mean, she's witnessing what she used to witness with her best friend and her crush. Like, with Lucas and Peyton, like, she's now seeing with Alex and Julian. And there's a part of Brooke that is very protective over that feeling, and she doesn't want to go there again, right? She doesn't want to be the person who's on that other end again. And, you know, whether you say, you know, Alex and Julian are not doing anything wrong, or, you know, Julian and Alex, you know, that, you know, Brooke needs to get over herself. It's just that, you know, Brooke's been there with Peyton and Lucas. She witnessed it. She was part of that. And there's almost probably a way for a side of Brooke that's like, I just don't want to be put in that position ever again. Like, I don't want to feel that way. And if it means losing the guy that I really have feelings for, you know, maybe it's worth it, because then I won't be hurt by him and I won't have to deal with that betrayal further down the line. Like, that's something that really has to be thought about.
like a few things happen and you're like,
Yep.
huh,
And you can think you know where you stand with someone, and then something happens. You learn something, and you go, oh, everything I thought isn't really the full picture. And is this full picture safe for me? Is this full picture good for me?
Yeah.
And I loved, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week. So often we move through things so fast on the show, and finally it feels like we're in a time where we're letting things breathe.
Yeah.
I like that they didn't clean it up. I like that she
Yeah.
said, I don't know anymore. And I loved that instead of trying to convince her,
He's
he
like,
admits that he
"Okay."
didn't know, and then he just apologizes.
and he's
Yeah.
like, I'm still here. Okay, this is where we are now.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I hurt you. And it just has to be there. And she has to
Yeah.
work through everything from her past that's triggered,
Yeah.
everything he did in the present that wasn't really up to par,
Yeah.
and figure out, can I make room for this person to be a flawed human, or are their
Yeah.
flaws going to harm the human that I am?
Man, that is
Yeah.
the thing. The fact that he does, you're right. The fact that he does just stay right there, because you could do that forever, right? Grab pieces of information to complete a picture. I don't know if we ever get a full complete picture of another person, even if it's your spouse
Yeah.
or your child. Like, we could never be anybody other than
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So you're always going to be gathering new pieces of information, which then could change the narrative about how you feel or what you think or how you want to approach your
Yeah.
relationship with them.
It's like,
Yeah.
But the mark,
it's not so much that, like, there's, you know, it's not like you discover that your spouse is like a predator or something like that, but it's more like, oh, I didn't know that you were into this or into that. It's like, some people are like, well, that shouldn't really change your opinion of somebody, but sometimes it does. Sometimes it's all it takes. Because sometimes you're like, oh, you're not the person that I thought that you were. And, like, you're just not the person that I thought that I knew. Like, sometimes there's those secrets that just change how you look at someone. And not even that, but their approach and their opinions. Like, I've drifted away from friends, and I've ended relationships with friends based on, you know what, I realized that it just wasn't working. Like, it, whatever, no, I needed to recognize that this relationship that we were having is not healthy. It's not something that I'm wanting to invest in. It's, you know, if you're gonna react that way, I don't feel like. And sometimes it is a moment where someone does something and it just changes the way that you look at them for the rest of their life. Like, there's people that I just can't talk to or talk about or even watch their content or see what they're up to anymore, because it's just like I can't get over what happened. But also sometimes it's just like nothing happened. It's just we went two different ways, and that's it. Like, it doesn't always have to be like a moment that happened and a moment that changed everything. I mean, sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. It just depends on how things fall.
Arc of someone who is willing to just stay there and be like, okay, the new information makes you feel differently. I'm here for that. Let's see what happens next.
Yeah, he responded rather than reacted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was so
And,
refreshing to see it, Mom.
You know, sometimes, you know, people are always like, oh, when I end a friendship, you know, I have to, you know, go out with a bang. I have to air out all their dirty laundry. I have to, you know, make an exposed video. I have to take them down or something. But sometimes it's just not even worth doing that, because it's not so much that anyone did anything wrong. It's just that you're just not compatible anymore.
Modeled, especially on our show, because, you know, we did fall into a lot of early and mid-aughts tropes, and we did have a lot of really bad behavior. And I just love how grown up all this stuff feels.
Yeah.
Everything we're dealing with in this season, you know,
It's mature.
even watching Nathan and Haley go through this.
Because it's like, if you think about the contrast between season 7 and season like 1 and 2, it's like, it's night and day. Like, remember that Brooke Davis was obsessing over like money, like how wealthy she looked, or like, you know, she was upset when she couldn't afford what she needed to afford. And, you know, maybe that was kind of that transition of, you know, going from that to now running an empire that could end potentially on the way that Brooke is handling everything. And, you know, she went from being all over the guys to now being very cautious over the guys. It's like, so much has changed. So much has evolved. And it's important to recognize that you're not the same person that you are as an adult that you were when you were in college, when you were in high school, when you were in school. It's like, you change. And it's okay to change. It's okay to have a different outfit, have a different style. It's okay to change your hair, to change your looks. It's okay to be a different person. And I get where Quinn is coming from. Like, it's also, you know, okay to not change. Like, yeah, it's okay to not change. You don't have to change as a person just to prove that you've grown up. Like, some people think that you have to change your entire personality. You have to abandon the things that you like in order to be an adult. Like, some people don't understand why adults can like My Little Pony, or adults can like comics or action figures. Like, they see it as something associated with kids liking, but they can't see that, you know, the things that I grow up liking are going to be the things that I end up liking, might like in my adulthood. Like, not everything is just for kids. Like, sometimes you like sometimes you do like grow too old to be in the fandom that you are in, and you realize, you know what, this is just not the same thing anymore, and you grow apart. But then there might be some other interests that you end up growing to, and it might even turn into your career. you know, you might be interested in getting into like making games and creating the very things that made you happy, and that just depends on how you accept your growth and your path. And all of this is like accepting, because like Brooke is in a place where, you know, she dreamed to be. She's a top designer with a successful brand, and you know, her values that she once had as a high schooler is not the same as it is now.
I was being trapped having to watch this show. The way I felt as a viewer and a friend when it finally clicks and Renee bursts into tears because she knows she screwed up, and Hayden finally bursts into tears because it's been so awful and she's actually finally taking her first deep breath. Like, the humanity of everyone feels really real, and it doesn't feel tropey, and it doesn't feel soapy. And
that's
I don't know, I felt really proud of us watching this.
You knew that even back then, though, because I have this in my little one of my little notes. It says "Relaxed Brooke," relaxed Brooke, because you had your like sweatshirt on or whatever this like loose t-shirt was. Your hair wasn't done. I mean, you looked really pretty, but like it wasn't the Brooke that we're always seeing with the makeup, and it was just like, I love that you even had that instinct back then. Like, we're just doing raw humanity right now. Can we please stop with like Brooke needs a break?
Yeah, like I don't need full pin curls for this, you guys, please.
Yeah. Really served the story though. It was a great choice.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to be a little bit
It's more real
as an actor, to match your appearance to your emotion.
Yeah,
because Brooke is really,
it's like you're not gonna be sitting on your couch eating ice cream, crying, and having a full face of makeup. Like, sometimes it's so unrealistic that it takes you out of the moment. It's like, yeah, this is a TV show. It's like when they're going to bed and they're like fully clothed and their face is like covered in makeup. It's like, okay, some people do sleep in full face makeup, but like most people don't. And it's kind of weird when they do.
a raw nerve in this. And
it's like they're laying in bed and you're all like pretty and like take the makeup off. Jeez.
I think it would have, to your point, felt really weird if she was in a full clothes over bros outfit.
Yeah.
Having this conversation with Julian, we all would have been like, what is going on here? When did she have time to put on eyeliner?
Yeah.
Well, and it speaks to how much she's struggling.
Yeah.
Because Brooke normally is so put together.
Yeah.
So for her to not be as polished as usual speaks to the fact that she's
that
struggling.
is true as
Yeah.
well. It speaks volumes.
How did it feel, Joy? Because I'm wondering, similarly to you asking Rob about what it was like to have James direct his big emotional scenes, how did it feel for you two to be shooting all of this stuff? Nathan and Haley, essentially captive audience members, can't go outside of their own home. They're getting followed around and all the things. What was it like to shoot that really emotional stuff with you and James while he was directing? Do you remember, or is it kind of a blur?
The emotional stuff was not too difficult for me ever, probably because I was living in a prison of emotional hell during the time that we were filming. So I think I was happy for any chance to leak. But James, I do remember, was, as you said too, Rob, a bit hands off with the actors, which I appreciated so much. It's not that he didn't have ideas. It was that he knew that he just trusted us. Like, he knew that we knew our characters. He trusted us to do our job. He trusted the lighting guys to do their job. He trusted the set deck to do their job, which is really, I think, what a great director does. They are quality control, as Paul Johansson would always say. Like, directing is just quality control. You just show up and trust that everybody else knows what they're doing, and you can guide and share your creative ideas, but we don't need to like micromanage everybody's job. And so I think James was mentored by Paul in that a lot as well. And I really enjoyed working with him. I don't know if he likes directing and acting at the same time. I would like to ask him that.
He also, like, I find so many actors who become directors, the things you don't like to hear as an actor. Like, there's, it's such a pet peeve, man. If say before the funeral scene, if a director walked up to me and goes, okay, so in this scene, the love of your life is dead, and now you're at her coffin. It's like, bitch, I read the script. I know what I'm in a fucking church right now. I know what the scene is. Like, I hate it. Where people be like, remember, this is a really big scene. Oh, is it?
Thank you.
This is my
Thank you
first
so
time
much for
reading the
that.
sides. Thanks for that clue. It's like, go back to video. If that's all you have to share, just go back to Video Village and scream action.
Yes.
Let me work, and then if you can fine tune me, but please don't come in and explain the action text of the script to me.
No, it's infuriating actually, and it takes you out of the moment, because now you're like, my pride is hurt. Now you're like, right before I do the scene, you're telling me that you think I'm the actor. Thank you.
And especially when you have to do a scene like that, you have to be open emotionally. And I think people forget this about actors. They think we have like on-off switches, like we're wind-up toys. And when you have come in completely laid bare because you're getting ready to just see where it goes, and someone talks to you like you're a fucking dipshit, at least for me, I can be like, oh, interesting, this person, okay. But if I'm in that state where I'm so emotionally open and I'm not prepared, it's exactly like you said. It's like it gets in
it's
me.
Like
in a way,
you're in that zone. Like, you've gotten there. Like, you're, what scene is coming up. So you're like, okay, I gotta be, a sponge, or I gotta be like a blank canvas. Like, I can't show any emotion. And the first person who interacts with you is saying, you have to like it's like it's gonna piss you off.
like, who are are you? What
Yeah.
do you think we do here? Do you
Yeah.
think we don't read scripts? Like, it makes me so much more upset than it would if I were just walking down the street and it happened, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're so emotionally open that, oh my God, for somebody to be like, so the backstory is. You're like, do you work with people who don't do their homework? Because we do our homework here.
Dude, especially on a TV show where the directors are just guns for hire. Like, we live with the character every single week.
Yeah.
You are a visitor here. But, like, it's because what really gets me, I don't know about you, but it's because for me, it's not that it's just unhelpful and a waste of time. It is actually, what is the word I'm looking for? It's not that it's unhelpful. It's that
It's
like,
destructive.
That's what I was going to say. It's destructive or counterproductive because the problem
Yes.
is now I'm pissed off at you. I'm now using my energy to decide how I'm even going to respond to that. And now I've all the work where I was at now is gone because now I'm just thinking about what a stupid thing that was to say. So it's like, I get infuriated because I'm like, now I'm just pissed off at you and I'm not even focused on the scene.
Because you're being emotionally punched instead of emotionally hugged. And you're like,
Yeah.
this scene requires an emotional hug. And then the worst part is, and I'm sure there's people at home being like, oh, poor actors. The worst part is because if it hasn't happened to you and you don't get how destabilizing it is, nobody cares, nobody's sympathetic, and you're like, okay, so I have to now use my brain power to figure out how to respond to this person and not be rude, even though what they've just done is actually so rude. But if I match their energy, I'm gonna get called difficult.
Oh yeah.
So it's like you have to navigate this
yeah.
really weird experience and still be nice, sweet, and cute, wild, and have to roll the camera and go sob over a coffin. No, thank you. I
it's
gotta
so
go.
hard. And you want to use it like I when that stuff happens to me in that kind of emotional context, I want to use it like I want to allow the anger to just get in even further because at least I can do something with it. But then, like you're saying, letting the anger do what it's going to do, but also not being a rude human in that moment. Like you got to split your personality in two all of a sudden in one moment. Like the left side of your personality with all of these emotions and anger and everything, but then the right side of your personality has to be like, yes, I have
Like when you're working retail and you really want to tell a customer what you really think, and you can't. You know you can't.
Thank you so much. Could I also please have a coffee with a little cream on the side? And just like that, wait by my chair, please.
Yeah, could I please figure out how to send you away from me? Yeah. In the classiest way possible because I would like to scream.
Oh, see,
Sometimes you have to take
So
a
I've
deep
had a
breath
couple
and
times
be
where
like,
I've
okay.
I recently said to a director who we got along well, but he came up and he gave me a good note and an offensive note, like a stupid note like that. And I just took a beat and I looked at him and I went, one of those notes was helpful. Cool. So I've had a couple times where I recently said to a director who we got along well, but he came up and he gave me a good note and an offensive note, like a stupid note like that. And I just took a beat and I looked at him and I went, one of those notes was helpful.
Oh my God, Rob, you're my idol.
He just took a moment and went, because he was also an actor, and he went, fair, and he walked away.
That's iconic.
What's nice about that is like, I've let you know that was stupid, but like we're good. I'm not carrying it into the scene with you, but y'all just go like, yeah, not helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Oh
gotta use
my
it or let it
God.
go. Just I've been learning more to just let it go. Like immediately just assume the best. This is a good person. That they want the show to be the best thing. They weren't thinking about it. I don't have time to process this. Like, and you just say thank you and let them go on their merry way. And then you go home and stew about it once the scene is over and you've cried your guts out over coffee.
Yeah.
You complain about it
I
later.
think what started to help me was figuring out the reframe of, like we were saying, Rob, when someone talks to you like that, you're standing there going, do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I haven't read the script? I don't understand what we're doing. We're expending emotional energy on nonsense. For me, even if it's not true, what I found the most helpful is to go, oh, they just want to prove to me that they've also done their homework.
Yeah.
Because people know I like homework. So maybe this person who I've only known for 48 hours really just wants me to know they've done their homework. Because obviously they assume I've done my homework. And that is how I have to talk myself out of the imposter syndrome thing that I think we all were, raised with and unfortunately had encouraged in our early workspace that we shared. And it's like I have to psych myself out of it in a different way.
Yeah.
And if I can do that,
And
if
to
I can split my
understand
brain
that it's
into
not
just enough to
necessarily
do that,
you.
I'm like, look at me being my highest self instead of my like sensitive inner 5-year-old. Look at that progress. I'm my therapy is working.
Well, and that's like, over time, the two things that I have learned as well to sort of help me reframe that whole experience is, one, new directors or insecure directors feel like they always have to be doing something. And so it could be that, which has nothing to do with me. Also, especially in episodic work, there's an on-set producer watching that director work. So that director may just want the producer to see them interacting
Doing
with
something.
actors, doing something. Exactly.
Yeah.
But what actors, what they don't know is that they can walk up to actors and be like, the producer's watching me, and so they really want to know that I'm giving you a note. So could you just nod your head and look like I'm saying something meaningful to you? And we're totally on board. Like we're nothing if not collaborative. We want to make it work.
Yes. So true story. I recently worked on something where the on-set producer didn't have the best ideas, but they had a lot of ideas. And so I could tell at one point the director when he came over and he gave a note to myself and my co-star, I went, is that your note or is that their note? And he kind of like made sure they weren't looking. He said, that's their note. I said, here's what we're gonna do going forward. When you come up to us, say pineapple. And then tell us the note so that we know it's not yours. So he walked up, like, okay, just 1 second, guys, we're gonna get set. Pineapple. Tip your hat to her and say "milady" at the start of the scene. Like, great, you got it. Because I know, like, I don't have to do that. That's not his note.
Yeah. But also he needs to know that he should be doing that with actors because then you know that he's not a terrible director.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? If I'm hearing him give terrible notes, I immediately go, this guy doesn't have my back. So now it's up to me to make sure I don't look like an
Yeah.
asshole.
It's like if you're going against each other because you think that it's like if you think that the person giving you direction or managing you is dumb and stupid and doesn't know what they're talking about, you're not going to listen to them and you're not going to respect them. But then they're going to see you not listening to them, not respecting them, and they're going to think that you are the problematic employee or the problematic actor or something. Like it helps nobody at the end of the day. It helps nobody because they think you're a moron and you think they're a moron and nobody's working together to actually achieve what you want to.
Right.
Yes.
And that's not how I'm going to do my best work if I'm performing and covering my butt.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
want to feel safe because it's in the safety that you relax enough to have the unexpected happen.
It's like in a way, like as a manager or as like a leader, like you need to be able to be like, you're stupid. Stop that. But at the same time, you also need to remind yourself that you're talking to adults and that you are interacting with adults that are not children. Like, they don't need to be told sometimes that, like, no, don't do this. Like, it's like, sometimes you just gotta let them do their thing. Because, like, sometimes, like, they know what they're doing. It's like, they got it. Like, they don't need your help. Like, it can be helpful to kind of just help, but sometimes it's just annoying when you're, like, in the way and, like, they already know what they were gonna do. It's like, if I already know what I'm gonna do, and I already know how I'm gonna do it, I don't need someone telling me to do it. Like, I don't know, I have one of those things where, like, if I want to make my bed, I'm gonna make my bed. But if someone tells me that I have to make my bed, I don't want to make my bed anymore. It's like, I don't know what it is. I have no idea. But I think it's an ADHD thing, actually. But it's like one of those things where it's like, I was going to do that, but now I don't want to because you just told me that I had to do it. I guess it's sort of wanting that autonomy to know that I am capable of doing it by myself. And that I don't need a director's note or a manager's note or parents or anything. Like, I just want to prove that I can do it by myself. That I don't need help, and I don't need assistance, and I definitely don't need anyone telling me what to do.
Yeah. And when you're looking around going, uh-oh, I've made a big mistake by choosing to work with this energy. That's a recipe for disaster. So how nice to be like, listen, I have thoughts. Some other people have thoughts. I will tell you when they're my thoughts and when they come from
just rub your chin. Just scratch your shoulder when it's not good.
Like,
I love that.
Have some sort of
we're winding up, guys. Is there anything else in this episode we need to talk about? Let's see. The music was great. I had orange hair still, which really is a problem. There were so many blue dresses in this episode too, which was also strange. I don't know if you noticed. There were a lot of blue dresses.
There was a lot of attempts at interjecting color. I feel like we kind of glossed over. We talked about it a little bit, but I feel like we glossed over the Nathan and Haley stuff. But I guess maybe it's because you just had to sit there and be a captive audience, right? And then the relief came in the end. And then we got that beautiful sequence with you guys outside talking about your lives. And we finally got our Ava Brothers song that the episode is titled after. Yeah. And it felt like such a nice respite for you two. Yeah. I guess I just wanted to say that. I really loved the way it wrapped up.
Yeah, and you had a great moment. I think it's after the news breaks and there's the sigh of relief. And Nathan says, I'm so sorry, Haley. I shouldn't have been at that party drinking.
Yes.
And you, Haley, responded with, dude, like, you actually say, you're still young. I think we forget that sometimes. And I thought that was such a good moment because he was kind of...
Like, they forget how quickly they got married
and I love that. Like, what a loving partner thing to do to go, no, you can take yourself off that hook.
They forget that...
Yeah, you're allowed to go out and drink and have a fun time without having someone launch a full-blown attack against you.
Well, we have a listener question, kids.
Do we?
Before we move on, we have a question from Sarah Beth. And this is a pretty big episode about people's journeys, so maybe we have thoughts. She asks, if your character had a time capsule, what 3 items would they include, and what do those items represent about their journey? Oh my goodness.
I think for Clay, it would be Sarah, Quinn, and Cherry, the 3 loves of his life. In the capsule. It's a very big capsule.
Humans.
Because those are his 3 loves. Well, Cherry was a chair that we meet in like season 9, I think.
That's right.
He's like irrationally obsessed with. So I would say it's the 3 loves of Clay's life, Sarah, Quinn, and Cherry.
Wow, that's a quick answer.
I gotta pee, guys. I had that one locked and loaded.
Okay, I'll move fast. Haley is going to have, I would say the little bracelet, the little Cracker Jack bracelet, except what happens if the time capsule gets like dug up by some hooligan kids and then she loses it forever? I don't know. I don't think Haley's going to bury some things in a time capsule. Maybe Jamie's like bracelet from the hospital and a yearbook. And I think she probably stole Julius Caesar from Lucas and put that in the time capsule.
Yeah, that feels right. I feel like Brooke would have either one of her campaign posters or that Brooke Davis for President pin, who is running for student council president, changed the course of her life. I feel like she would probably have one of those first dresses that she feverishly sewed like a magical worker for the first Clothes Over Bros
Not
launch.
The ones that
and then I think she would
had,
put Julian's Letterman jacket.
The kids do.
Yes. Oh, wait, I'm amending mine because now I think she needs Quentin's paper on Les Mis. I think that's going in the time capsule too.
Yeah, okay,
that's nice.
Cute.
Well, now let's spin a wheel.
Ooh, what do we have
ding,
today?
ding, ding.
Most likely to only date someone with a compatible zodiac sign.
Is anyone neurotic enough for that in real life that we know? Like superstitious, like really superstitious?
I'm gonna go out and say Zelda from episode 7 or 8.
Oh yes, upcoming Zelda.
Honestly, genius. I agree. Co-sign.
Zelda.
Guys, we have to get into it. Let's get right into 708, friends. I mean, you'll get it next week, but we're gonna dive into season 7, episode 8. I just died in your arms tonight.
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is when I'm waiting for it to come to YouTube, I'm gonna watch the episode that I'm supposed to watch, because I think I'll have more to say when I know the episode they're actually talking about, and I can even add my own thoughts and inputs on the episodes. But I hope you guys enjoy this either way. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more, especially if you're into the Drama Queens podcast. I'm going to keep doing this because it's kind of fun. And like I said, I'm going to change how I do it. Because basically, for these past episodes, I haven't been watching the episode. I've just been relying on what I remember. But I think if I watch it during the week that I'm like if I watch it this week, I'll be ready for Monday for when it drops. I know that it's gonna drop on Monday, so I'll be able to watch it, the episode, and then watch that and know what they're actually talking about. Because sometimes I forget because I forget which episode we're actually on. I mean, I have pretty good memory, but I think I just have to watch it again. Anyways, thank you for watching. Hope to see you guys in the future. And peace out, guys. It's been a blast. Bye.